What if I told you that hidden within every myth, every story, and even within your own mind, there exists a force that defies logic, thrives on contradiction, and plays by no rules but its own? A force that doesn't just challenge authority, but mocks it, exposing its absurdity while slipping through definitions like water through your fingers. This figure is everywhere. He is Loki, the Norse god of mischief; Hermes, the cunning messenger of the Greeks; Coyote, the trickster spirit of Native American folklore; and Anansi, the spider god of West African legends. He exists in the margins of myths and in the cracks of civilizations, never fully belonging to one side or the other. But the trickster is not just a relic of ancient stories. He is alive in our world today, shaping history, infiltrating culture, and whispering in the back of your mind. Unlike the hero, who follows a path of honor and sacrifice, or the villain who seeks power through destruction, the trickster is something else entirely. He does not seek control, yet he disrupts it. He does not obey morality, yet he is not entirely immoral. He thrives in paradox, dancing between order and chaos, creation and destruction, deception and revelation. But the trickster is not just a mythological character. He is a force within us all. He is the part of you that questions authority, that bends the truth to avoid trouble, that laughs in the face of convention. He is the whisper of doubt that challenges certainty, the impulse that rebels against structure, and the voice that dares you to step outside the lines society has drawn for you. And here's the real trick. If you fail to recognize him, you may already be under his influence. In this exploration, we will uncover the trickster's true nature, his purpose, his contradictions, and his presence within the human psyche. We will journey through myths, psychology, and history to understand why this figure refuses to disappear and what his role is in our world today. Because whether you see it or not, the trickster is always at play. The question is, will you be the one pulling the strings, or will you be the one caught in his web? For as long as stories have been told, there has been a figure lurking at the edges, challenging, provoking, disrupting. He does not seek glory like the hero, nor destruction like the villain. His purpose is more elusive, his presence more unsettling. The trickster does not fit into the traditional narrative of good and evil. He steals from the gods, yet gifts humanity with fire. He exposes hypocrisy, but wears a mask himself. His actions spark change, yet his motives remain unclear. He operates in a space beyond morality, bending the world to his amusement and revealing uncomfortable truths in the process. Cultures across the world have given him different faces, but his essence remains unchanged. Loki's deceptions unravel the power of the Norse gods, setting the stage for Ragnarok. The Native American coyote teaches lessons through mischief, sometimes wise, sometimes foolish. Hermes, with his quick wit and restless feet, crosses boundaries no other god dares to breach. Anansi spins webs of trickery, outwitting the strong and rewriting the rules as he pleases. But why does this figure endure? Why does every civilization, despite its attempts to impose order, give birth to a force that thrives on disruption? Because rules create limits, and the trickster exists to test them. Every structure, no matter how strong, carries within it the seeds of its own downfall. The trickster finds those cracks and forces them open, exposing illusions that societies cling to. He does not do this out of kindness nor out of cruelty, but simply because that is his nature. He is the force that ensures stagnation does not take hold. Where others accept, he questions. Where obedience is expected, he resists. Without him, systems grow rigid, traditions become chains, and the mind remains caged within its own certainties. His presence reminds us that rebellion is not merely an act of defiance. It is a catalyst for transformation. Those who ignore him do so at their own peril, for whether welcomed or feared, he always finds a way in. And when he does, the world is never quite the same again. Where others see clear divisions, the trickster finds doorways. He does not belong to any single realm, yet he moves between them effortlessly. At times, he appears as a disruptor, tearing apart rigid structures. Other times, he is the bridge, linking the sacred and the profane, the rational and the absurd, the mundane and the divine. He thrives in contradiction. The trickster is both hero and villain, wise and foolish, creator and destroyer. He deceives, yet his lies often reveal hidden truths. He appears lawless, yet his mischief follows a pattern. He brings disorder, but through that chaos, transformation begins. Ancient myths capture this paradox in ways that still resonate today. Hermes moves between the worlds of gods, mortals, and the dead, never fully belonging to any. Loki's schemes undo the order of the Norse pantheon, yet many of the gods' greatest victories stem from his interference. Coyote plays the fool, yet his foolishness teaches lessons that shape entire cultures. This duality makes him impossible to define. While others fit into clear moral frameworks, the trickster slips through every attempt to pin him down. He does not reject the rules outright, he rewrites them. He bends reality to his will, not to claim power, but to remind the world that nothing is truly fixed. This refusal to conform makes him both feared and revered. Societies attempt to suppress him, yet they cannot function without him. The fool might break rules unintentionally, but the trickster does so with purpose. He sees the invisible strings that hold the world together and knows exactly which ones to pull. His actions expose hypocrisy, challenge illusions, and force people to confront what they would rather ignore. He is the voice in the back of the mind, questioning certainty, the whisper that says, "Are you sure?" The force that dares the world to look beyond its self-imposed boundaries. He is never truly on one side or the other. His allegiance is to movement, to change, to the breaking of limits. To engage with him is to step into uncertainty, where rules dissolve, and only those willing to adapt will make it through. Some resist, clinging to order. Others embrace the unknown. But whether welcomed or rejected, the trickster is always waiting, ready to turn the world upside down once more. Nothing about the trickster remains fixed. His form, his motives, his very essence. Everything shifts according to the moment. He adapts, reinvents, and escapes definition, slipping through identities as easily as a shadow moves in the dark. Shapeshifting is one of his most powerful traits, not only in mythology, but within the human psyche itself. This figure exists beyond a singular form because he represents something deeper: the fluidity of identity, the malleability of perception, and the tension between who we are and who we pretend to be. In myths, his transformations are literal. Loki shifts from man to woman, from god to beast. Anansi, the spider trickster of African folklore, uses his ability to weave deception just as he weaves his web. The Native American coyote can be a wise guide or a foolish prankster, depending on the lesson needed at the time. But his ability to change form is more than a trick. It is a reflection of something fundamental about human nature. We, too, shift personas depending on our surroundings. We play different roles in different situations, hiding parts of ourselves, revealing others, adapting to fit the expectations imposed upon us. The trickster exposes this constant transformation. He forces us to confront the masks we wear, the contradictions within us, the uncomfortable truth that we are never just one thing. When someone insists they are always honest, always rational, always in control, there is deception at play, even if it is self-inflicted. Carl Jung saw the trickster as an archetype deeply embedded in the unconscious mind, tied to our most primal instincts. He emerges when we deny parts of ourselves, when we suppress our impulses, when we cling too tightly to an identity that no longer fits. The more rigid our sense of self, the stronger his influence becomes. He appears in the form of self-sabotage, in the inexplicable choices we make against our own best interests. He is present in the Freudian slip, in the nervous laughter at an inappropriate moment, in the desire to break free from societal expectations even as we fear the consequences. Ignoring him does not make him disappear. It only allows him to work in the shadows, manipulating from within. But for those who recognize his presence, who embrace the fluidity of their own nature rather than fearing it, the trickster becomes an ally. He does not demand that we abandon identity, but that we acknowledge its impermanence. He teaches that no belief, no role, no mask is absolute. In that lesson, there is both freedom and danger. To see him is to see the mirror he holds up to the world. To recognize him is to recognize the game of identity we all play, and in doing so, to step one layer closer to the truth hidden beneath the ever-changing surface. Balance is an illusion. Every society, every ideology, every individual walks a thin line between structure and disorder. Too much rigidity, and the system suffocates itself. Too much chaos, and it collapses. Somewhere between these two forces, the trickster moves, effortlessly shifting the weight of the scale just enough to remind us that stability is never permanent. He is not chaos incarnate, nor does he seek destruction for its own sake. His role is more complex. He steps in when systems become too rigid, when certainty turns into dogma, when the world begins to mistake rules for truth. With a laugh, a trick, or an act of sheer defiance, he exposes the fractures hidden beneath the surface. In mythology, his presence often signals a moment of transformation. When the Norse gods grew complacent, Loki's schemes set the course for their downfall, yet also ensured their myths would endure. Hermes, moving between realms, refused to let any boundary remain absolute, keeping the divine and mortal worlds in a constant state of flux. Even outside of legend, his dance continues. Revolutions begin when those in power believe themselves untouchable. Art, humor, and satire thrive in moments of repression, breaking the illusion of control. The most disruptive ideas emerge when old structures can no longer contain the complexity of the world. The trickster does not create chaos without purpose. He plays with the limits of order, reminding us that what seems stable is often held together by little more than belief. His presence is a test. Will we cling to illusions of permanence, or will we embrace the inevitability of change? Yet there is a danger in mistaking him for a savior. He does not build new systems. He dismantles the old. He is a force of transition, not of destination. The structures he disrupts may be corrupt, but what follows is uncertain. Those who call upon him must be prepared to navigate the space he leaves behind. This is the risk of engaging with trickster energy. It offers no guarantees. It is the laughter that mocks certainty, the paradox that refuses resolution. It is the knowledge that no belief, no rule, no truth is beyond question. But in that uncertainty, there is also freedom. The freedom to reinvent, to rewrite, to step beyond the limitations imposed by fear. The dance never ends. The question is, do we resist the rhythm, or do we learn to move with it? The greatest trick the trickster ever played was convincing us he exists only in stories. His presence is not confined to myth, nor is he merely a force operating outside of us. He moves within, shaping our decisions, whispering in moments of hesitation, and sometimes steering us toward paths we do not fully understand. He does not need to be seen to be felt. He is the part of the mind that questions, disrupts, and tempts. Each of us carries him. Some recognize his influence, others remain blind to it, but no one escapes his game. He is present when we deceive ourselves, when we act against our own best interests, when we sabotage what we claim to desire. The trickster thrives in the gaps between who we think we are and who we truly are. Psychologists have long identified this presence within the psyche. Carl Jung spoke of the trickster as a shadow archetype, an unconscious force that disrupts the ego's carefully constructed identity. The more rigid and certain we become, the stronger his pull. He is the voice that questions our assumptions, that laughs at our illusions of control, that pushes us towards self-examination whether we want it or not. For those who resist self-awareness, he manifests in destructive ways. He twists logic into justification, convincing us we are immune to deception while we fall deeper into it. He feeds arrogance in those who crave certainty, only to watch them crumble when their worldview shatters. He turns our own defenses against us, ensuring that the harder we cling to our masks, the more fragile they become. But for those who acknowledge him, something changes. He becomes less of an adversary and more of a guide. He reveals the absurdity in the roles we play, forcing us to laugh at our own contradictions. He encourages adaptability, the ability to question without losing ourselves in doubt, the willingness to embrace complexity without seeking absolute answers. This is why the trickster appears both as a deceiver and a bringer of wisdom. He disrupts, but only because disruption is necessary for growth. He leads us into confusion, not to abandon us there, but to force us to find our own way out. His lessons are not gentle, nor are they always welcome, but they are essential. Ignoring him does not silence him. He will emerge regardless, whether in moments of self-sabotage or in the quiet realization that the certainty we once clung to was never real. To face him is to face the uncomfortable truth that we are not as solid, as predictable, as unchanging as we believe. And within that truth lies a choice: fight against the trickster's reflection, or look deeper and see what it is trying to reveal. Destruction and creation are often seen as opposites, yet they are bound together in an unbreakable cycle. Every beginning requires an ending. Every innovation disrupts what came before. The trickster exists in this space, not as an architect of order, nor as a force of pure chaos, but as the catalyst that ensures movement never ceases. He is the reason civilizations evolve. The structures of power, once thought unshakable, crumble beneath his influence. He does not bring revolution with banners and armies. His weapon is laughter, inversion, unpredictability. He mocks the sacred, distorts the rational, and introduces the absurd into the rigid mechanisms of control. Throughout history, figures who embodied trickster energy have reshaped the world, often without fully intending to. Socrates, with his relentless questioning, undermined the confidence of Athens in its own wisdom. The court jesters of medieval times spoke truths no advisor would dare utter, wrapped in layers of comedy to disguise their subversion. Writers, satirists, and artists continue this legacy, revealing contradictions in the systems that govern us. But the trickster's influence is not only societal, it is deeply personal. He appears in moments of transition, when old identities no longer fit but new ones have yet to take shape. The discomfort of uncertainty, the pull toward reinvention, the temptation to dismantle what once felt stable, this is his realm. He does not offer clear answers. He does not promise that the destruction he initiates will lead to something better. He simply ensures that stagnation does not take root, that nothing remains unquestioned, that movement is inevitable. This is why many fear him. Comfort is found in what is familiar, even when that familiarity is a cage. The trickster reminds us that nothing remains untouched by change, that even the strongest structures can be undone with a single, well-placed disruption. Yet for those who embrace his energy, possibilities emerge where others see only ruin. He invites us to see not just what is falling apart, but what might be built in its place. He teaches that chaos is not only destruction, it is the raw material from which the future is formed. In his world, nothing is fixed, nothing is sacred, everything is in motion. And those who understand this do not fear the unknown. They step into it willingly, knowing that within the uncertainty lies the potential for something entirely new. The trickster is neither hero nor villain, yet his presence can tip the scales in either direction. When engaged with awareness, he sparks transformation, exposing deception and opening pathways to new ways of thinking. But when unchecked, when his influence grows beyond control, he no longer serves as a force of renewal. He becomes an agent of ruin. This is the shadow of the trickster. The same energy that dismantles corruption can also unravel stability. The same laughter that exposes hypocrisy can turn into cynicism, where nothing is seen as meaningful. The ability to manipulate perception can enlighten or deceive, liberate or ensnare. Throughout history, unchecked trickster energy has led to deception so powerful that entire societies collapse under its weight. The rise of charismatic frauds, of leaders who cloak destruction in the guise of revolution, of ideologies that claim to free people while ensnaring them in new illusions. All bear the mark of a trickster untethered from wisdom. This archetype is often mistaken for mere rebellion, but there is a difference between challenging authority and dismantling structure without purpose. When destruction is pursued for its own sake, when disruption turns reckless, the trickster mutates into a force of chaos without direction. In personal lives, the shadow manifests in self-sabotage. The whisper that once encouraged questioning now fuels doubt without resolution. The impulse to resist turns into an inability to commit. The laughter at life's absurdities shifts into nihilism, where nothing holds weight, nothing is worth pursuing, and deception of others and of the self becomes a way of being. Even mythology warns of this descent. Loki, the master of tricks, crosses a line he cannot undo, leading to the unraveling of the very gods he once played alongside. Coyote, at times a clever teacher, in other stories becomes so consumed by his own tricks that he falls victim to them. The line between wisdom and recklessness is thin, and those who wield trickster energy without restraint often find themselves caught in their own web. This is why societies both fear and need the trickster. He is vital for change but must be met with awareness. When he moves unchecked, when he is embraced without question, destruction follows, sometimes so subtle that it is only recognized once it is too late. To engage with the trickster is to walk a fine line. Too much order and we stagnate. Too much chaos and we collapse. It is not enough to summon him. We must also know when to rein him in. The trickster cannot be avoided. He is woven into the very fabric of existence, present in every cycle of destruction and renewal, in every moment of doubt and reinvention. But if resisting him leads to stagnation and surrendering completely to him results in chaos, how do we engage with him without being consumed? The key is balance. To embrace the trickster is not to become reckless, nor to abandon structure entirely. It is to understand that disruption is necessary, but must be wielded with intent. It is to see the absurdity in rigid systems while still recognizing their function. It is to laugh at illusions, yet remain grounded enough to build something meaningful from what remains. Jung spoke of individuation, the process of integrating all aspects of the psyche, including the trickster, rather than repressing them. He warned that denying the trickster's presence only forces him into the shadows, where he influences us unconsciously. But to acknowledge him, to dance with his energy while maintaining awareness, is to access a profound source of adaptability, wit, and transformation. This means recognizing when we are deceiving ourselves. It means being willing to question our assumptions without falling into endless doubt. It means using humor as a tool for insight rather than as a weapon of cynicism. And most importantly, it means understanding that no belief, no role, no identity is absolute. The trickster teaches that the world is fluid, that everything shifts, that no structure is permanent. But he does not demand destruction. He invites us to engage with this reality consciously. The difference between a fool and a trickster is awareness. The fool is tricked by illusion. The trickster sees through it. To walk this path is to accept uncertainty without fear. It is to understand that the only constant is change, and that wisdom does not come from grasping at permanence, but from learning to navigate the unpredictable with intelligence, humor, and adaptability. This is the ultimate lesson of the trickster. Transformation is inevitable, but whether it happens to us or through us is a matter of awareness. The trickster never gives clear answers. He does not point to a single path, nor does he tell us what to believe. Instead, he forces us to confront the illusions we hold, the masks we wear, and the structures we assume to be unshakable. He reminds us that certainty is often an illusion, that the world is not as stable as it seems, and that within every system, whether social, psychological, or personal, there are cracks waiting to be exposed. But his goal is not to destroy for destruction's sake. He invites us to see, to question, to rethink. For those who ignore his presence, he works in the shadows, manifesting as self-deception, blind obedience, or the inability to recognize manipulation. For those who embrace him recklessly, he leads into chaos, where nothing holds meaning, and deception becomes second nature. But for those who walk the middle path, who see through illusion without rejecting all structure, who question without falling into nihilism, who laugh at the absurdity of life without losing their ability to create, he becomes a powerful ally. Because the ultimate trick, the greatest illusion of all, is believing that we have everything figured out. So ask yourself, where has the trickster appeared in your life? When have you questioned something you once believed to be absolute? When have you played the fool, or worse, tricked yourself into certainty? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Have you ever recognized the trickster at work in your own decisions, your doubts, your contradictions? Let's discuss, because wisdom is not found in clinging to certainty, but in embracing the dance between order and chaos.